This is the Poco X7 Pro disassembly. This is the variant from India, so it should have a larger battery. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified once I upload a new video. Also, if you need any tools, there are links in the description. To start off, the SIM tray needs to be removed. Looking at the SIM tray, we can see an orange rubber gasket around the opening. At this point, heat needs to be applied to the back plate using either a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then a pry tool can be used to pry the back plate off. I prefer to use a hairdryer since there's less of a chance of damaging any of the components inside by overheating them. Here's a look at the plastic backplate. The camera lens covers can be replaced by applying heat and prying them off, so you won't need to take apart the phone to replace those. But if you do plan on replacing the entire camera bezel, there are 2 Phillips screws on the back which need to be removed. At this point, there are 19 Phillips screws which need to be removed. Now, this metal cover over the flex cable needs to be removed. The flex cable can now be disconnected. So, looking at the top cover, we see an antenna flex cable located here, the NFC antenna, the rear ambient light sensor, the LED flash, as well as graphite film to help transfer heat. Here's a look at the other side. Now the battery cables can be disconnected, followed by the rest of the cables. There is a pull pouch provided to help you pry the battery off. This is the 6550 mAh battery. And keep in mind, this battery on the variant or version from India is larger in capacity. The coaxial cables can be disconnected by just popping them off. Looking at the bottom speaker assembly, we can see an area of graphite film to help transfer heat. There's also a mesh filter over the speaker opening. And here's the speaker itself. There's also an antenna board on the side of the speaker where the black coaxial cable is connected to. This flex cable connects the main board to the subboard, and this is the flex cable for the screen. So if you needed to replace the screen, you would have to remove the back plate, the screws on the top plastic cover, you'd have to disconnect the battery cables and the screen cable, pry the battery off, giving you access to the screen cable, at which point you would heat up the front of the phone where the screen is to loosen up the adhesive underneath. You'd pry the old screen off, apply new adhesive, and reapply the new screen, making sure you run the flex cable back to the opening in the mid frame, and reassemble the phone. Taking a look at the main board, we see the primary 50 megapixel camera, as well as the 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens. The main camera is the only one with OIS or optical image stabilization. The camera connectors can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a secondary microphone underneath the covered shield, as well as some graphite film and copper tape to help transfer heat. Looking at the other side, we see the 20 megapixel front-facing camera, the infrared or IR blaster, as well as additional copper tape and thermal paste on the back to help transfer heat. Once the copper film has been peeled back, we see additional thermal paste on top of the RAM, which is seated over the processor, as well as a red thermal pad over the ROM or storage. Here's a better look with the thermal paste cleaned off and the thermal pad removed. Now that the flex cables have been peeled back, we have a better look at the vapor chamber, which runs underneath the battery, as well as the motherboard. Looking at the subboard, we can see a red rubber gasket around the charger port, and the primary microphone is located underneath this covered shield. The simulator is located on the other side. The vibrator motor is located on the bottom corner, and the fingerprint sensor or scanner is located here, both of which are held down with some adhesive, so if you needed to replace those, just apply some heat and gently pry them off. Now for this phone, if you were to accidentally insert a SIM ejector tool in the wrong hole, you don't need to worry since both the filters as well as the microphones are seated above the hole, so they wouldn't get damaged. There is also a red rubber gasket against the opening of the speaker on the frame. The flex cable for the volume keys and power button is located here. In order to replace that, just gently peel it off the frame, and lift up and remove the black plastic bracket which is in the slit of the frame, and then you'd be able to remove that flex cable. As for the buttons, those can be pulled out of the frame. The proximity and ambient light sensor board is located here, and the earpiece speaker is located on the other side. Both are held down with some adhesive, so to replace those, just apply some heat and pry them off. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to put the phone back together. Once everything's back in place, apply a new adhesive and reapply the backplate. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.